graders. I'm super excited about our next art lesson that I'm going to share with you because it's not something that we've done together before, and I think it turned out pretty cool, so I think you're going to like it. So I call this lesson our yarn foil relief sculpture artwork. It's a cool name for it. I call it a relief sculpture because a relief sculpture is something that is flat but has slightly raised surfaces, okay, or carved in surfaces. So for example, if you were to take a flat piece of wood and carve into it, that would be a relief sculpture. I think about coins when I think about relief sculptures because they're flat, but some of the parts of a coin, like a quarter, are raised. So that's a relief sculpture, and we're gonna do something similar to that, but we're gonna use cardboard, yarn, foil, some glue, some paints. So lots of stuff today. I think it turned out pretty cool, and I would love it if you would show me if you gave this a try. So watch this video, and I hope you try it. Okay, so for today, you're going to need some cardboard, some thick yarn, scissors to cut the yarn, glue, and foil. And then what I don't have in this picture is paints, but I'll talk a little bit about that once we get to that step. Okay, so first I cut a bunch of random sized pieces of yarn, and I'm going to arrange those on my cardboard. I'm gonna do that by putting a line of glue down on the cardboard, and then I'm gonna stick my yarn to it. I'm making it kind of go in like a flowy pattern. You can make a picture with this, you can make a shape, it could be anything that you want. So you'll see I'm gonna start adding some glue, and then I'm gonna glue my pieces of yarn down to my cardboard. This could be any shaped cardboard that you want. I just did a rectangle. You just wanna make sure that your yarn's gonna stay in place. This doesn't really matter because you're not gonna see this in the end. You're not gonna actually see the yarn at the end, but you are gonna see where the yarn is, if that makes sense. So you wanna make it in a design that you like. So I'm gonna do one more, and then I'm gonna speed up the rest of the pieces of yarn that I glue down. You don't want any pieces hanging over the edges, so make sure that you cut those off. Okay, I'm just gonna add a couple more. Okay, for this next part, you need to be really careful. So I thought I wanted to put glue down first, but then I thought about it. And what you should do is make sure that you gently put your foil over your cardboard and just kind of press gently along where the edges are so that you know where to put the most amount of your glue. Okay, and then you're gonna just put glue all over your foil. And then you're gonna spread it out, and I used my finger. So yes, you can use your finger to kind of smear the glue. You don't want it to be in bumps because it will mess up the way that your artwork looks at the end, so you want to smooth it out. Then I just rub my fingers together to get the glue off. I'm gonna try to line it up the best that I can. It does not have to be perfect, okay? And this is the part where you need to be careful. So once you set your foil down, you need to gently press, and then you're gonna start gently rubbing the foil so that it sticks in between the pieces of yarn. And pretty soon you're gonna see your design with your yarn start to show up through the foil. So now you're gonna get some raised parts and you're gonna get some lower parts. And hopefully your foil is sticking to the cardboard because you put all that glue on it. And so I'm just gently running my fingers on either side of my pieces of yarn. Again, it's very easy to rip this, so you need to be really careful when you're doing this step. Then I just tucked the rest of the foil on the back by folding it over. You could glue this or you could tape it to get it to stay there. I'm just gonna fold it over and then keep moving on. Cool. So I'm going to talk about the next step, which is adding color and your options for what you could do to add color. But again, just gently kind of running my fingers on either side of the foil of the yarn, and you can see it really starting to pop through the foil. Okay, at this point, I'm gonna add paints, and I'm gonna be painting in between my pieces of yarn. You could use Sharpies, or you could just leave it plain metal, like plain foil if you wanted to. This turned out pretty cool with the paints, so I'm just gonna show you adding color with paints. And what I did was I just made sure to paint in between my pieces of yarn. So I'm not painting on top of the yarn, the raised part. I am painting in between my pieces of yarn so that the foil that has the yarn underneath it is gonna stay silver. And then when everything else is painted, it ends up looking pretty cool. So I'm using liquid tempera cakes. I would not use tempera cake paints or watercolors for this. I would use something like liquid temperas or acrylics for this. You could also use Sharpies, or like I said before, you could just leave it plain. So I'm going to speed up the rest of my painting so that you can see what it looks like when it's all finished. On some of them I overlapped colors to get a little bit of mixing going on. Okay, so here's the final artwork. So you can see the silver parts, those are where the yarn is. And that's the part that's raised. So that part I didn't paint, I painted in between, and then I ended up leaving this really cool design of where so you can really see where my yarn is underneath the foil. Again, you could do kind of an abstract design like this, or maybe you wanna get adventurous and try to make something specific with your yarn. Again, the way that you can add color is you could use Sharpie, you could use liquid tempera cakes, you could use acrylics, or you could just leave it plain. But it turns out pretty cool, so good luck and give this foil relief sculpture a try.